So also we've mentioned before that Trooper Proctor has been suspended without pay. If there is another trial, is he necessary for the prosecution to make their case?
I would say so. It's very odd if the lead investigator doesn't testify. I mean, how does that look? But also, it's going to be brought up that you were fired for your conduct in this case. Not like what you did outside of this case, whatever. In this case, the things that you did, that led to your termination. So how's that going to play to a jury? I don't know why they're trying to do this all again. My theory is they're just trying to appease the O'Keefe family, because the O'Keefe family is kind of gullible, and they've gone along with this, and they support the Alberts and the McCabe's, and they say Karen Reed's a liar, and the defense is all a sham.
Right.
And so I think they're just putting on the front, oh yeah, see, we're still fighting for you, Mr. O'Keefe and Mrs. O'Keefe and Paul O'Keefe. We're still fighting for you. We're going to get her this time, second time around. They know they're not going to get her. She'll never be convicted, ever, no matter what, because she's completely innocent. In this country, 12 people, after hearing the facts that I just laid out in front of you, would never send this woman away for the rest of her life.
Well, you would hope that the O'Keefe's family would take a step back and want justice for their child, right? As opposed to just hanging it on someone that maybe they didn't like because they thought she was an abusive girlfriend or whatever their view is, right? So, and obviously, in all due respect, there has been a circus around this whole thing. And I think in the aftermath, it's completely overshadowed the fact that someone lost their life and how terrible that is. And, I was watching yesterday the coverage, and I wanted to ask your opinion because you're on her side, but do you think the public's opinion, and there are a lot of people on her side, absolutely, but do you think the public's opinion of her has cast a shadow on her? She comes off as somewhat unlikable. The head nods she makes, the smirks, standing on the street looking like she's a famous athlete or something. I think that's rubbed people the wrong way. Do you see it that way?
Oh, it's definitely rubbed people the wrong way. I think that's our biggest flaw, is that, and the only thing that could hurt her in both the court of public opinion and with the jury. I mean, jury's a human. And if they look at her and they don't like her mannerisms, and they're like, she's doesn't appear sensitive enough to this, that can, they're human. They might look at this and just think the same way the O'Keefe family is thinking, that I just don't like Karen Reed. Karen Reed rubbed me the wrong way. And I think to the the less informed people out there who are inclined to believe law enforcement, they look at this person and they look at her, the facial features that she makes, and they're just like, she looks like a celebrity when she comes into court. And I know you called it a circus, and I do take a little bit of an issue with that one, because I would say that the circus has been created by the Commonwealth, that there would be no protesters outside. There would be no supporters of Karen Reed had the Commonwealth acted in an ethical manner. We are only responding to what we see as obvious government corruption and the state-sanctioned lynching of an innocent woman for the murder of a Boston police officer. We are outraged. We are going to be outside there. We're not going to be quiet. And I don't think that's a circus that we created.
Okay, I think that's fair. Also, as of this morning, there's news out that Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert has also been put on leave. And that seemed like new news. And how detrimental is that going to be?
Kevin Albert's not really involved in the investigation of John O'Keefe, but he did kind of insert himself into it. The FBI showed that he was asking Brian Higgins, why aren't you returning Brian Albert's phone calls? Everybody got a grand jury subpoena by the feds that are investigating the investigation. Where are you, buddy? And, he inserted himself into the story where he had no business, inserting himself. He has been suspended, though, because Michael Proctor testified that the two of them got hammered in his cruiser. And that Kevin Albert texted him the next day. He's like, dude, I left my gun and my badge in your car. Dude, I was so wasted last night. And that's pretty unprofessional for the two of them to do that. And by the way, they also testified that the Proctors don't know the Alberts, yet they're getting drunk together in his cop car. So I don't know if it affects the investigation because Kevin Albert's not technically involved in it. But it certainly, once again, goes to show that the Alberts are a bunch of drunken, well-connected cops who get away with everything until the truth came out at the trial.
Okay. So you have you've been there every day, right? I assume. You've been very vocal about your thoughts on Karen Reed's innocence, and you yourself have gotten in the middle of it and gotten into some trouble. Can you just talk a little bit about how you've gotten inserted into this whole story?
So because of I describe myself as a journalist, an activist, and a satirist, right, or an entertainer. I wear 3 hats. So I don't just report the news. I also act on the news. And because I'm outraged about this, and it wasn't enough for me to just write about it, I organized protests of this, right? I went to the homes of people, the McCabe's, Alberts, and Proctors, knocked on their door, looked for comment. None of them wanted to speak to me. I went to Jennifer McCabe's kids' lacrosse game because I knew she'd be there to ask her a question because that's the only place I could find her out in public. I wanted to ask her why she Googled how long to die in cold. I filmed myself doing this. I organized a rolling rally protest in Canton where we went to the homes of several of these alleged witnesses who are really, I believe, co-conspirators to murder. And we went to their homes and we peacefully protested outside of their homes. And this is time-honored journalism and activism, right? That BLM has, made the summer of 2020, like they burned American cities down, and nobody went to jail over that, right? And they protested the police, and this used to be well-respected stuff, especially in liberal states like Massachusetts. But because I did this in defense of Karen Reed and went after well-connected people, they took this time-honored journalism and activism in the cradle of liberty and the revolution, Boston, Massachusetts, and turned it into what is called witness intimidation. And so I was indicted on, I don't know how many counts, I've lost track, counts of felony witness intimidation, 4 counts of picketing, and 1 count of 3 counts of conspiracy to commit witness intimidation because I published a picture of Jennifer McCabe's car at the Proctor household, proving that Jennifer McCabe had a social relationship with the Proctors because she's there on a social visit. And I ran the license plates of them. Anyone, you can hire a PI, anyone can run a license plate for you to do that. And I proved that that's her car and the Proctor's cars are there. And they called that felony witness intimidation. So they came
So to clarify, you were just doing what you felt you needed to do to get answers. You were not, what we hear as witness intimidation is like calling a witness and being like, do not testify or I'm going to kill you, whatever, I'm going to kill your family. It was not that at all. Obviously.
Exactly. That's what witness intimidation laws are supposed to prevent. People, thugs and gangsters who try to prevent people from testifying. I never once said, don't testify or else. I want people to testify. This trial was great for business. I'm on your podcast right now because of this trial. Like, of course I want the trial to happen. Of course I want these people to testify and say what they're going to say. I want to hear the truth in open court. So I've just been looking for answers and asking questions and urging people to tell the truth. One of the indictments, one of the things I have on me is that I'm outside of Juliana Nagel's house and I say, Juliana Nagel, you should tell the truth. That's a felony now in Massachusetts. You can't urge people to tell the truth because I guess they want them to lie. I guess that's what they want them to do. And so instead of just sending me a summons in the mail like you normally would for witness intimidation,
or a cease and desist, whatever, yeah.
Right. They sent me, they sent the state police fugitive unit to my house and they'd been watching the bus stop for like weeks, and they knew what time they were going to, I had 2 kids, what time they were going to get on and off the bus. And as soon as I got them on, they got me coming into my driveway. And then they searched my whole house. They did it in front of the bus. I don't know what they saw, what they didn't see. Right. And, they put me on bail. And I've been on bail since, and they revoked my bail on my birthday, December 26th. And I went to the can for 60 days and I sat there. And the day that the crime I was charged for, right, on Christmas Eve was assault and battery. They found an ex-girlfriend of mine who was angry that we had broken up. And long story short, she invited me over her house because she was pretending to be pregnant, claiming to be pregnant, and said she wanted to talk to me about it. I got over there. We talked. I tried to leave at 3 a.m. She wouldn't let me leave. She said, you can't leave me. You have to stay here. And I said, okay, I'll stay here till 5 a.m. because she had woken up her 4 children and threatened to drive to my house in the middle of the night. And I recorded this whole conversation because it was dangerous, right? And I ended up leaving at 5 a.m. And hours later, there's a warrant out for arrest because she claimed I hit her behind closed doors. And my bail was revoked for that. And on the day that I got out, after 60 days, the charges of A and B were dropped. They just went away. So they had no intention of actually like trying me for this. They just wanted to revoke my bail and throw me in the can for 60 days just because they could, as a way to tell me, you better shut up. Like, you better shut up. Like, you better stop talking about the Kearney case or we'll throw you back in there.
I'm just curious, how was your experience in jail for 60 days?
Oh, it was horrible, and it was worse for me than the average person because, because of my high profile nature, they couldn't put me in Gen Pop. And the number one element you face in the can is time, right? Like, time moves extremely slowly in there. Like, there's no Wi-Fi. Like, try going out, like, try doing that and like being. So I couldn't be in the general population area where they get like 9 hours of rec every day, and you could probably play chess or, play basketball or talk to other people. Who knows? Even though I don't want to associate with prisoners. Like, I just want the time to go by. Instead, they stuck me in this medical area where I was by myself, isolated for 21 hours a day. I got 3 hours of rec by myself. I never interacted with another prisoner the entire time. It was like the only time I could talk to them was through like cell doors. And when I would do rec in their living area, sometimes they would call me over and they'd say, "Hey, Turtleboy, come here." Everybody knew who I was. "Hey, Turtleboy." And they don't want to tell me about their cases.
Of course.
And one of the people who I spoke with was Brian Walsh, who has been charged with murdering his wife. And he chopped up her body, I guess, in New Year's Eve 2022, going into 2023. He was all over the news. And they never found her body. And the lead detective on that case is none other than Michael Proctor. And how did they get him? Google searches, right? He Googled like how to chop up a body and a bunch of other really incriminating stuff. He obviously did it, and it's freaky being around that guy, because I'm in here because I made comments on a YouTube show people didn't like. And here I am in the same living with these people who kill their wives and do all sorts of horrible things. And it's just like, I clearly don't belong here. So
Right.
and just being away from the kids,
Yeah.
it was horrible. Like, it was absolutely horrible. So I'll never forget it. It was the longest 60 days of my life. We're going to sue their face off when this is all said and done, because I won't forget it. I won't forget what they did to me. And it just shows how vicious and corrupt these people really are.
Well, and it seems like people haven't stopped in their attempt of intimidation of you. I think a week ago, there was a dead turtle found hanging at your parents' house. Is that true?
Yeah, by its neck, shot in the head. And that was.
And they don't know who did that?
We don't know. 2 days after my mother died, that appeared. I don't know if it's related to that, but that appeared. 2 weeks ago, I was involved in an incident. I went out to eat at C.F. McCarthy's in Canton, which is where Karen Reed went that night. I wanted to check it out. I was in Canton doing some research on a story. And Chris Albert's pizza shop is directly next door to C.F. McCarthy's. And when we went inside, Colin Albert was coming outside of his dad's pizza shop. I didn't recognize him at first. And he said something to me. And I'm like, "Oh, crap, it's Colin Albert." And I took a picture of it. I took a little selfie. And he's like, "Call the cops." He went inside and called the cops. I'm like, okay. Didn't say anything else. I went inside C.F. McCarthy's, ate with my girlfriend. And, when we came out an hour later, there was a mob of McAlberts waiting outside for us. I was assaulted by two of them who are now being charged with assault and battery. She was sexually harassed by one of them. We were just, three of the people I allegedly intimidated and were so scared of me, they were all there yelling stuff at us. And it just shows like these people are not victims. They pretend to be victims when it comes to me because I exposed them. Because I told the world what they did to John O'Keefe. And I asked them questions that made them uncomfortable. And I made them famous for what they did. And they don't like that. But because they have access to the police, their family members are all police officers, their friends are all in the district attorney's office, they have all the power. They have the institutional power. And so they were able to make themselves the victims and make me the criminal and get me jacked up when they're the ones that killed John O'Keefe. I'm just reporting on what they did. So they have the power for now, but we're not done. We will get justice for John O'Keefe. Michael Proctor is the first of many who are going to go down for what they've done to him, for what they've done to Karen Reed, and what they've done to me.
Incidentally, are the police looking into the claim of animal abuse and harassing you at your parents' house?
Yeah, the Worcester police are doing a great job.
Okay.
And they've scoured the neighborhood. They've looked for ring camera videos. They've taken eyewitness statements. They took fingerprints of the railing where the turtle was found. They're doing real police work. They're doing much more work than the Canton and State Police did for John O'Keefe's body. They didn't ask a single house on that entire street, do you have a ring camera footage? Did you see anything? Not one person outside of 34 Fairview Road was questioned about what they saw or heard the night that John O'Keefe was killed. Not one ring camera video. Both houses across the street have ring camera videos. Would have caught the whole thing. Neither one of them was questioned by police or asked to have their videotapes pulled. So, this poor turtle is getting 10 times the amount of justice from the Worcester police that John O'Keefe did from the Canton police and state police.